Hey everyone, Alan from GameGrooves here. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the creation of our latest album, Archstones, a metal tribute to Demon Souls. Some of this information you might have heard if you were listening to the Ungaku Overdrive album listening party last Friday, but I wanted to reiterate it for everybody, just to give you an insight into like how this album was developed, why Demon Souls, why metal. So, if you didn't know, and this is something I'm working on, explaining the branding and various sub-branding of GameGrooves. Right now, as it stands, GameGrooves Music handles, GameGrooves Music is all of the albums, right, that we put out. And then within GameGrooves, there are two sub-brands, right? There's GameGrooves Charity, which is all the charity albums that we do, right? We don't take a profit from any of those. Those all go to various different charities. And then there's GameGrooves Elements, which are these compilation albums that usually it's like one track per artist, right? These are pretty common in the VGM scene. It's been going on for years and years and years that you see these kinds of albums where every artist throws in a track, puts them together, and then you have a compilation album. With Elements, my goal was really to try and go a step further, right? Create these themed albums that are compilation albums, but have similar sounding artists or like a cohesive sound, right? I created 6 elements: Scorch for metal. Let me get through. Scorch for metal, Flow for jazz, but it's kind of more than jazz. Marrow for like folk and instrumental. And Ether for lo-fi, chill. What else? Volt for rock, and then Neon for electronic, right? And they're very loose, and I'm still working on them because there's no such thing as perfection. And even I get confused about like where to place certain things. But these are general, right? These aren't hard and fast boundaries. Like, well, if you're doing a Scorch album like this album, it has to be metal. No, it's just it gives the listener an idea of what to expect, right? So up till this point, we had done our first album was Elements, right? In the GameGrooves Elements series. And the goal of that album was to kind of establish this idea of like each track was its own separate genre and identity. Initially I put out a 4-track EP. I probably should have put out a 6-track because it ended up being 6 elements eventually. And 6 is a good, nice number. The next album was Steal Your Heart in the GameGrooves Elements series, which was a Persona 5 jazz tribute. But again, jazz is a very loose term here. And then after that, it was Barrel Roll, an electronic tribute to Star Fox 64. Again, electronic being a loose boundary. And then finally, we have Archstones, right? So up till now, we've done essentially three elements, right? We've done Flow, which is like the jazz. We've done Neon, which is like electronic. And we've done this latest one was Scorch. Now, originally, I was going to have every single album cover reflect a specific logo or element. I kind of got away from that idea because from a branding perspective, I'm still trying to figure out how to make people understand the idea of these GameGrooves Elements albums. But I know when you're trying to sell somebody on an album, especially people that might not know GameGrooves, that you don't want the first thing to be like a very niche logo that even most of the GameGrooves audience might not recognize. So I've kind of tapered back on that idea. Still trying to figure out how to explain these elements a little bit better, and that's partly why I'm explaining it in the video. So that gives you an idea of why metal, because I love metal. Metal is one of my favorite genres. I grew up listening to metal, and so I'd always wanted to do a metal album for GameGrooves. In fact, I had wanted to do a metal album as far back as Game Lark, which was my previous excursion into VGM. Just never really came to be. So I don't know what it was. It was just something in me that said now's the time, and I started putting ideas together. And I knew that I didn't want to do, and no offense to any of my friends that have done this, but I didn't want to do like a Zelda metal album because as much as I love Zelda and I love metal, I wanted to do a game that it maybe wasn't quite so obvious, right? And so I think, I can't be 100% certain about this, but I'm pretty sure that it was 2 tracks off of the Häthén album, which was our charity album that honored women in gaming, and it specifically supported Girls Make Games. Psamathes put on 2 tracks, I think I think it was 2 tracks from Castlevania. But either way, 2 of her tracks were on the album. They both were these like moody gothic, like really cool tracks. And that kind of started me thinking along the lines of like, oh, what about the Soulsborne or the Soulsborne series, which is like Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, and Bloodborne. I had played Bloodborne, so I knew some of the music. I never was able to finish it because I'm a bad gamer. But I knew Demon Souls was getting remastered, and I was like, oh, this might be perfect timing. And so I listened to the soundtrack one day. I just decided to sit down, during work, put on the whole soundtrack and listen to the whole thing. And I was like, this is perfect because, first of all, the opening and closing tracks are just so powerful. So I knew, okay, for sure we can have those 2 on the album. Because obviously we weren't going to cover every single track. It's somewhere like 20 tracks. And typically, for these compilation albums, I want 10 to 15 tracks. In this case, 10. So I knew I had an open and close track. And then I basically just prayed that Psamathes and Lacey Johnson would say, yes, we would be willing to do those 2 tracks. I didn't tell them which one to do. I knew when I sent out the email to recruit people, I was like, these 2 tracks, no one else take them. I want a female vocalist doing this, right? And so fortunately it all worked out that way. So also I do want to say I had every intention of playing Demon Souls before the album came out, but my PS5 got lost twice by FedEx. So that didn't happen. Still would love to play it one day. What's next? So how did I pick the artist? Good question. A lot of them I had worked with on previous projects like GameLurker, or I just worked with them on previous albums, or I knew them. Billy the Bard I knew. Marvin I've known for a long time. BlackearacheXD. I roomed with him at Mag once. He's a beautiful man. But there were a couple newcomers. Celestial Fury I knew because of Lowlander from Burnt Toast Record. And I actually have reviewed 2 of his albums. He has a really unique, Genty-esque prog sound. What else? Rusty Powers and Markov Soroka were some newcomers. Rusty, I said this on the stream, but I'll say it again. Rusty, I know from Sounddrop. I met him at last mag or 2 mags ago, whatever, 2020 mag. And I didn't know that he was working with a collaborator for this track, but I remember he put out a Half-Life cover that was this ambient, like, post-black metal track, and I loved it. I was like, I get excited when people, I know that this is maybe not the best for, like, SEO and marketing and advertising for artists to go super niche with their sounds, but I love it because I'm just like, yes. Like, I want the weird metal covers, like when Billy the Bard 11th did like a cattle decapitation cover of a Pokemon track. That is the kind of stuff that gets me excited, right? So I was like, of course, I need to reach out to this person and see if they want to be on the album. And fortunately, Rusty said yes. Markov said yes. I think those were the newer additions. I'm trying to think if there was anyone else. No, that was pretty much the new people. Everyone else I had worked with. So once we, got the artists, I sent out the email, everybody picked their track. It came time for album art. This is kind of important, actually. This is kind of interesting. So, Don Corey, if you're watching this, I still love you. But, there's always a but. I wanted to do something different for this album. Again, ideas change. Originally, I wanted every GameGrooves album art to be reflective of whatever element it was and blah, 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 and it didn't work out. So likewise, I had thought from the beginning, I want to use Don Corgi for all the album art. We'll create a consistent visual brand for GameGrooves. And then I was like, no, because her theme, again, had something to do with this. Emma Häthén, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, Emma. I really should ask you sometime. Emma did such a fantastic job with her theme's album art. All the album artists have done a fantastic job, and honestly, they probably will reappear for the Elements series in the future. I reached out to Emma and said, hey, I loved your art style for her theme. I think it would be perfect for this album that we're working on. And fortunately, she said, sure. So the next step was, well, what do we call it? Because the title has a lot to do with the album art. And I didn't know much about Demon Souls lore or anything. So I did another deep dive and just Wikipedia or whatever. One of the, not Wikipedia, but like the Demon Soulspedia or whatever wiki that exists for it. And I was looking for something that is unique to Demon Souls, but is kind of like it's something that's like pretty well known in the fan base. And so I was researching this idea of Archstones, and I was like, this sounds cool. And then I saw a picture of all 5 Archstones together, and I was like, boom, there's your album cover. So the album cover kind of influenced the title, and the title kind of influenced the album cover, which I think is interesting. So after that, mastering is always handled by James C. Hoffman. He's just my go-to person at this point. There's a lot of trust and love with him. As an album producer, label owner, whatever you want to call me, I don't know, whatever you want to call me, I want to have 100% confidence that the tracks I'm giving someone, like, I want to have 100% confidence in that person. So that's why with James, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. James does a fantastic job. In fact, I think he's gotten better with each GameGrooves release, and I know he had a lot of fun with this, so I had no questions about using him for the mastering. And then lastly, as far as the promotion and marketing side of things goes, I kind of lucked out because Ongaku Overdrive went on Twitter, or Kent Ward did, who runs Ongaku, and said, hey, something changed. We have a slot available for an album listening party. If anyone's interested, message me. And immediately I was like, message. Yes, I want to do an album listening party. And he was like, let me listen to the album and then I'll get back to you. Unfortunately, he said, yes, I'd love to have the album on the album listening party. And I gave him some resources and materials, the tracks, obviously, album art and that kind of thing. And then last Friday, we had the album listening party, which was a blast. If you were able to make it, thank you. If you weren't, totally understandable. It was 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is pretty late for a lot of you in the EU and Europe and all that. But what was great about it, and I kept telling Kent this, I was like, this is so wonderful because it takes all the pressure off me. Like, I can just enjoy it. I don't have to worry about, like, is the stream working? How are the volume levels? Like, am I screwing up? Blah, blah, blah. Twitch is, like, an exciting platform, but it's also kind of like the Wild West because it's just, like, it changes week to week, and it just seems like, I don't want to go on a tangent. But anyways, Twitch, it's not, like, something you can just jump into and, like, okay, everything's smooth, ready to go. It's like you got to have the followers, you got to have like the widgets and stuff to go with it. You've got to do all this other stuff that I'm just like, I don't have the time to do this. So having someone else that knew what they were doing, presenting it, it was a lifesaver. So I just got to drink a few beers and kick back, relax, talk with Gunderslam about the album. And yeah, I mean, overall, this was just a really pleasant experience, and I thought I wanted to share some of that with you all in case you're curious. So, lastly, I guess I'll just say a couple things. One, if you're sticking around and this is a 13-minute video now, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting GameGrooves. Really, from the bottom of my heart, it is. I enjoy what I do. And I want to keep doing it. And this year especially is going to be, I don't want to make it seem ominous, but it's going to be crucial for GameGrooves because I have made the decision just recently that I want to take this from a hobby to kind of a business. Not in the sense that I want to earn a living from it, but in the sense that I want to make it sustainable so that I can do projects that I couldn't imagine doing without the right support and without the right sustainability structure. So lots of exciting things are coming, both for the website and the music and Uncovered. It all relates, right? So stick around if you like what GameGrooves is doing. We're trying to push the envelope. This year I can say for sure we have at least 2 to 3 more Elements albums coming out. We have more charity albums coming out. Next year things get even more wild, and I won't say outright what's going to happen. But, as Elements was a refinement of like these collaborative albums that have existed in the past, I want to take it a step further, right? Whether that means solo albums or like group/band type albums where you pull people together to work on a project, but only a certain amount of people. So it's a very tight group. That's kind of what 2022 brings, along with some other cool ideas. So we've done 3 Elements, as I've explained. So we're definitely going to be doing a rock album, Link 182. We're definitely going to be doing a folk album, which is our Banjo-Kazooie album. This might be the first time I mentioned it. But yeah, Spiral Mountain, a folk tribute to Banjo-Kazooie, is coming out in June. And then there will be one other album. I'm not 100% sure I want to announce it just yet. So yeah, lots of good music coming out, and we might be doing another album listening party with Ongaku Overdrive if they'll have us again. Kent, I think, mentioned that he wouldn't mind doing it again. So if I can, excuse me, not have to learn how to do Twitch, it's not a matter of laziness. It's just a matter of wanting to do things right. And it's like, it's the same thing with like not, like asking Peter to do the videos for the album premieres. I could do the videos, right? I know how to do it. I have iTunes or iMovie, and I could probably get Premiere again. But there's just something nice when you have somebody that knows what they're doing, putting stuff together, and all these little details that Peter can add that I wouldn't think to add. So anyways, yes, lots of exciting things. This is a long video, but thank you. Also, if you feel like supporting GameGrooves, there's a lot of different ways you can support. Obviously watching this video is one of them, sharing things, blah, 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 blah. But as far as financial support, I understand this is a difficult time for a lot of people, and I don't stress about, I'm in a very fortunate position where I don't have to stress about money. But if you do want to throw money at us, we're not going to say no. But I'm going to tell you where your money is going, right? If you're buying albums, obviously that money is going to GameGrooves Music to help produce future albums. If you want to specifically support the website, which is going to have a lot more tutorials and guides and stuff coming this year, I would highly suggest looking at our Patreon, because essentially I've made Patreon a platform for just the website, right? If you donate money every month to the GameGrooves Patreon, it's only going to the GameGrooves website. Now, granted, it's all coming out of my pocket. So if I have, let's say, like, I don't know, like $100, it's not really like that anymore, because I've set it up so that your support enables me to commission more writers, right? So if we reach $100, which I need to update the Patreon goals, if we reach $100, I'm going to bring back one commission article a month, then 2, then 3, and then we'll go from there. I'm just trying to set up sustainability, like I mentioned. So I can't afford to keep paying, writers out of my pocket. So I'm thinking, well, hey, if this is something that people really want, I'm going to give people an option to help make it happen. Otherwise, it's me and me and guest authors. And then I've got a lot of big projects coming up this year. We'll see if they come to fruition, but I think they will. And then lastly, I guess I haven't plugged this yet. I probably will this week. There is a GameGrooves Ko-Fi, coffee, whatever you call it. This is going to be just kind of a catch-all, right? This isn't specifically earmarked for anything, but it will be used for something GameGrooves related, right? It's not going to be just me using Ko-Fi money to buy the latest, PS5 game when I don't even have a PS5. It's going to be things like, oh, hey, if we get, somebody's generous donates $100 on Ko-Fi, I'm going to put that money away and say, okay, when can I use this, right? Could I use it for a contest? Could I use it for a prize? Could I use it to help sponsor somebody's album, right? This is something else I'm getting into, looking at GameGrooves sponsored albums where I don't take a cut, but I just help people produce an album in terms of like handle a little bit of that financial stress, because especially artists that are just starting out, $50 to $100 can go a long way. So obviously there's a lot going on, and it's just a matter of like trying to create sustainable growth without growing too big. So yeah, this year there will definitely be at least, I can safely say, 6 more albums coming out, maybe 7. So 3 more Elements albums, and then 3 more charity albums. We have 2 Elements albums underway. We have 1 charity album that's in the middle of production. And then we're starting pre-production for another one. I'm in discussions with the album manager or whatever, executive producer for the album. So there's always things going, but like I said, it's as long as it's fun, I'm going to keep doing it. And really the whole like changing from a hobby mindset to a business mindset, I think it's just going to make it sustainable and give GameGrooves opportunities that weren't previously available. That's like the whole goal. And yeah, VGM is life. VGM is love. It's like my my 3-year-old son, who is a Godzilla fan. My wife asked him one day why he watches Godzilla all the time, and he says Godzilla is life. And like, that's how I feel about VGM. If I'm not doing it, I miss it. When I wasn't doing GameLark or GameGrooves, like I would go to Mag and I would just be like, man, I wish I was doing this again. And then when I was doing the website, even though that was fun, I was like, man, I wish I was producing albums again. And now it's wonderful because it all kind of feeds on itself. Like I get ideas for albums and then I'm like, oh, we could do this with the website and we could do this with the podcast or, the holiday special, which we're still working out. It all kind of feeds into itself. It's all just having fun and seeing what you can do with it. So thank you for sticking around. Thank you. Seriously. We've almost reached 1,000 followers on Twitter, although who knows if Twitter's going to die soon because they're doing all this weird stuff. It doesn't matter, right? VGM continues. That's why lately I'm working on building mailing lists and stuff because it's like if one platform goes down, it's not going to stop. There's no stopping GameGrooves this year. So, yeah, thanks for sticking around. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay beautiful. 2021 will hopefully be a better year than last year for a lot of people. And at the very least, you can look forward to a lot of great video game music coming both from GameGrooves and other places. So stay tuned. Like I always say, stay tuned.